I wasn't always a Suffolk County, Nassau County. For some reason, I may be wrong here, I was under the impression that the cops were already respected. They didn't get treated the same way as the cops in New York City. A, is that true? And if it was true, have things changed because of people like John and us the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that by and large, the public supports us in Suffolk County. However, that has changed to a certain extent because of some of the woke laws that we have on the books. Just recently, we had one of our officers attacked at a street takeover. So where we had, dozens of these street racers take over a street, doing donuts, burnouts, racing, and obviously people call 911. The police arrive, and what's the rational thing to do at that point if you're a street racer? Maybe you try to leave, right? Either you cooperate with the police, which would be the right thing to do, or maybe you try to avoid contact and get out of there. Well, they take neither of those actions. Instead, they attack the police officer, right? Where my police officer gets attacked by a mob of people, they slash the tires on the police car.
Wow.
Right? So that's sort of what we're dealing with, and it's because there is this spirit that it's open season, that there are no consequences. And, I will give our great DA, Ray Tierney, some credit here. He absolutely prosecutes these people to the fullest extent of the law. Unfortunately, the law is on their side, and that's what needs to change.
CJ Hunter, you work. You're the treasurer for this for the PBA, and I was just at an event about a month ago where you guys honored me. It was very, very nice. 1,000 people. They gave me a beautiful award. A free dinner was great. And Ray sat next to me.
He loves a free dinner.
Yeah, I do. I love a free dinner. But on a serious note, 1,000 people there. It was a beautiful event. It looks like financially, the Suffolk County PBA is pretty healthy. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, it's definitely fair to say that we're doing pretty well. We have a very engaged membership. We have a lot of people in the community that come out and support us. We have people that come to that party that, they come out, they buy some raffles, they hang out with the cops, but they're there to just show us their support. And it goes along with what John and Peter King were saying, and how outlets like WABC coming out and painting police in a positive light again. It's really going to help, because with all the negativity that's been going on for the last 20 years, we've seen less people growing up wanting to be cops. And you need to have people that want to grow up, do this job, and protect their communities. We see it in our, just people signing up to take our tests to get hired. We saw a huge drop. Back in the 90s, we used to have almost 50,000 people taking every test. The last test we just gave 2 years ago, there was about 13,000 that signed up to take it. So it's a huge drop. And the communities are who's going to suffer when there's a lack of people wanting to do this. Yeah, one thing in Suffolk County, a lot of our members live where they're working. So guys take pride in doing the job the right way. When I was a patrol cop in the 7th Precinct, that's where I grew up. That's where my kids lived. So everybody wants to maintain that quality of life we were just talking about. Everybody takes a lot of pride in what they do because we want that for the next generation. We want our children to grow up feeling safe.
And we are back. Thank you very much to my colleague, Sid Rosenberg, the great Sid Rosenberg. Folks, please give him a round of applause. Sid is the man, and this event is sponsored by Goya and the Suffolk County PBA. We have a great panel here. I want to say up front, guys, I'm with you 1,000%. Law enforcement, you have the tough job, the impossible job. And I'm sick and tired, frankly, of people demonizing law enforcement. And in particular, communities of color must start to get behind law enforcement because the communities of color are the ones that benefit off of the work that you do each and every day. That is the bottom line. Now, someone that knows, and I'll get to your introductions in a second, someone that knows very well about this topic because I covered him as the police commissioner of New York City, and he was all about integrating all the different communities, but law enforcement first. And it is my great honor to say that we are joined by telephone by one of the former police commissioners of New York City, Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. Please, folks, let's give him a round of applause. So, Commissioner, one, we miss you. Two, it's interesting because I watched you keep crime down in this city. I think you were still are the longest-serving police commissioner. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Wow. So as we back the blue, what's on your mind, Commissioner Kelly, as you are a living legend an American hero, and not just in New York, in Haiti, all over the country, what you've done with your career. But as we back
Well,
the blue, what's going through your mind today?
well, thank you so much, Dominic, for your kind remarks. I would say it's never been more difficult than this time frame that we're in to be a police officer, certainly in New York City, than it is now. Cops have been disabused, have been bashed. I don't think we've recovered from the death of George Floyd. That was obviously a terrible tragedy. But the overreaction to his death has really set law enforcement back quite a bit. If you talk to cops, you know that they're subjected to the insults and degradation every day on the streets. People feel they can get away with it. There are no consequences. So back to blue, these types of movements really mean a lot. It tells cops, hey, there are people there that think about you, that worry about you, that care about you, and this is very important. And this is a classic John Catsimatidis move. He's been so supportive of the police, and you yourself too, Dominic, as well. As I say, we go back a long time. So it's vitally important that cops know that we're in their corner. As I say, after the death of George Floyd, there was a sea change in law enforcement, really. Thousands of police officers left the profession through the country, but also certainly in New York City, and we really have not made that up again. Cops are still leaving in very big numbers, and Commissioner Tisch has a very difficult job laid out for her, but I think she's the person to do it. She made a statement yesterday going back to enforcement of quality of life, and I think that is so important. And I hope that takes place. Actually, you can go back to the policies of Giuliani and Bloomberg, and it's all right there. That all worked. That all made the city livable. And we've slipped significantly. You talk about life in the subway. We never allowed people to sit on 2 seats in the subway or to lay down, or you have those people who run through the cars screaming. No, that did not happen. There was enforcement action taken. Well, that's a thing of the past. You've got to go back to that. And that lets the cops know that we support them, that we're in their corner. It's a difficult time, and thank you for doing this.
Commissioner, again, and we're going to bring in the panel in a second, you are, and I say this straight up, you know I don't mince words, you are an American hero for what you've done, in particular with law enforcement in the city. And you mentioned the George Floyd case several times from Minneapolis, and I do have to be straight with you, Commissioner. The tragedy in the George Floyd case, when you look at this, when you are honest about this, is what happened to those police officers that went there doing their job. And the fact of the matter is, it's Mr. Floyd that resisted arrest. I know what the video looks like and so on, but videos can be deceiving. And those cops that were there doing their job, most of them, I believe all of them, are still in prison. And it's a tough situation. But, Commissioner, and I don't want to keep you too long, but given that you are perhaps the law and order man, explain this to me, these nuts at the New York City Council that are anti-police and defund the police, which has got to be the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. Did you ever think we would get to a point like this where an elected body, they would take great pride in disrespecting and defunding the police officers of New York City?
Never to this extent. They've done some really bizarre things. You know, the how many stops law, the don't put pressure on the diaphragm in making an arrest, eliminating qualified immunity. These sorts of things are done basically to punish police. Not to protect people, not to make the city any safer. They're out to hurt the police, and as a result, that's why you have this exodus of police officers, and it continues. People leaving the department. You know, it costs a lot of money to train a cop, and when they leave 2 or 3 years later, that's
And they go to Suffolk,
a major expense. Exactly, they go to Suffolk, and because it's the quality of life out there for police officers is much better. That's just the reality. And this is something that the NYPD and the city has to take on directly, because there's no answer to the exodus right now unless they take it on directly. You know, overtime, you know, when I was a cop, everybody loves overtime. Now, overtime is just shoved down their throat. They can't get away from it. And that is causing a problem. So somebody's got to sit down with the cops, find out exactly why they're leaving, and try to address some of them. Try to address even with the city council. But at least take them on directly. Let's try to find out what is causing this exodus. And of course, there's no consequences. Now, whatever you do these days, you're certainly not paying any consequence of any significance. You know, the summonses in New York City, for instance, have been watered down. There are now criminal court summonses and civil summonses. And the civil summonses, quite frankly, aren't worth the paper they're written on. Nobody responds to them. Nobody goes into oath, it's called, which is a separate city agency that does this sort of thing. You know, these are the real life issues that exist in New York that ultimately impact on everybody's quality of life. So I'm glad to hear the commissioner is getting back to or trying to get back to some of these quality of life concerns, because it's really about disorder. Is crime an issue? Of course it is. But even broader than crime is the disorder, the feeling that nobody's in charge, the feeling that you're in danger, even on the street or in the subway. That is what's pervasive. That's what has to be addressed. And the cops, I think, are doing a terrific job with all of the weights and measures that have been placed on them. Their hands have been tied. And it's just, as I get back to what I said, it's more difficult now to be a cop, certainly in New York City, than it's ever been, certainly in my experience.
Commissioner, we're going to let you get on with your day, but please give former New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly a tremendous round of applause. Commissioner, thank you. It was one of the honors of my life to cover you. Love you, man. It was great knowing you professionally and personally, and I wish you nothing but happiness in the next endeavor of your life. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks so much, Dominic, and thank everybody there. Appreciate it, pal.
Okay, guys, thank you, Commissioner. We got 15 minutes here, and we got a panel that is the real deal. Law enforcement. I want to go around the table, and I do things very differently, not structured. That's boring. We got something to say it, because you're power players in terms of law enforcement. I want to go around the table. I want everybody to introduce themselves, your title. We got the PBA president. We got a couple of major players here. You're all major players. Let's go this way coming through. Go ahead.
So I'm CJ Hutter. I'm the treasurer of the Suffolk County PBA. Been a police officer for about 18 years.
18 years. Wow.
Louis Savello, I'm the president of the Suffolk County PBA, and I've been a police officer for 25 years.
Wow.
Matt McCartan, Nassau County Police Department Sergeant, currently about 29 years.
29 years.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Good afternoon. Rory Capper. I'm retired NYPD Sergeant. I served for over 35 years in NYPD, and I'm still very much involved with the fraternal organizations within NYPD.
35
We didn't
years.
sit in year order. That was completely coincidental.
So, Mr. PBA president, as we are here to back the blue, and I mean back the blue unequivocally, because even when something goes left, when it goes wrong, I strongly believe, having covered law enforcement for 40 years, and it's been a maturing on my part, because I was always the guy, whenever there was an alleged police brutality incident, that the community would call. And so I was the guy that the community called to make their case. But over time, over the years, watching what's going on out on the street, watching as kids douse police officers with water and think it's funny. and think it's funny. So Mr. President, let's begin with you. What's on your mind as we back the blue today?
Well, I can tell you in Suffolk County, if you dumped a bucket of water on a police officer, it would lose its humor very quickly.
Good.
Yeah, certainly not funny in Suffolk County, and I
Good.
think that you might find yourself in handcuffs and in a cell
Good.
somewhere
Good.
should you do that. So.
Good.
And on my mind, I think Commissioner Kelly was exactly right. We had just a few days ago one of our officers fired upon, and he was a veteran, a lieutenant, 29 years on the job himself, and I went to see him in the hospital, and he said the exact same thing that Commissioner Kelly said. 29 years on the job, and he said, and this, today, is the most difficult that he has ever seen it to be a police officer. Ever. Right? And there's been a lot of tumultuous times here in New York. But yet, 29-year veteran saying that today. And I have to agree. When you see what police officers today face, when they not only have to worry about getting killed by the bad guy, but also getting locked up by the very system that they're there upholding the laws, well, their work is cut out for them. We are held more accountable to an unbelievable standard where you wear a body camera. Every single thing you do is on camera to be second-guessed, Monday morning quarterbacked, all day long. There's no wonder why people are leaving this profession in droves. As CJ, our treasurer, said earlier, our numbers have dropped, even in Suffolk County, right? And we're still a great job. But people aren't even taking our tests the way they used to. So we don't have applicants interested in taking the job to anywhere near the degree that we used to. It used to be 45, 50,000 people take the test. 13,000 now. You keep going in that direction, we are headed off a cliff. We need to make some changes. We need laws that support our police officers. We need common sense changes to the laws here in New York State, and we need backing from the politicians and government officials.
No, that's very true. And when you talk about why people don't want the job, it's some of the incremental day-to-day disrespect of the police officer in the street, like the water incident, when you can throw buckets of water on a police officer and that's allowed to stand, and it's condoned by the public, it's condoned by the media. The same with when they spit at the police officer, when they stand there and curse in his face and call him every name under the sun. How do you respond to that, and how do you take that home with you, and how do you expect to do this job when your family is subjected to this type of abuse as well? That's why people don't stay on the job, because of that incremental lack of respect for the police and for the profession itself. And that's something we have to bring back. This is a noble profession. It is an honorable profession, and people should understand that, and people should want to come into police service to be there for their communities, because ultimately we come from the community. We are the community. And you want to give back to your community and protect the people.
It just seems in society these days, what's up, what is supposed to be up, is instead down. What's supposed to be left is instead right. The only solace that I think I have is we have a no-nonsense president now in the White House. No more of this pandering, no more of this Black Lives Matter garbage, con artists. Yes, I'm black and I'm saying it because it's the truth, right? You guys may not feel comfortable saying it. The audience may not feel, I feel comfortable saying it because the truth is on my side. No more mega mansions for the leaders of Black Lives Matter, okay? So again, I want to hear from you guys. We only have about a few minutes left. I want to hear is there any good? Is there any good? Is there any positive? Is there any silver lining? I know it's tough these days.
A lot of damage has been done. We've all gone over it the last, over the last 2 decades, especially most recently. When you talk about bail reform, clean slate, a lot of this stuff has so negatively affected the way we can do our jobs. And when, when bail reform was passed, there was only certain charges you could actually keep people locked up for, right? Some guys have to get let out. And we had a case in Suffolk County recently where 4 people were charged with dismembering a human corpse, spreading the body parts along streets and into parks. Mm-hmm. Children on their way to school found body parts spread throughout the county. And we couldn't even hold these people because they couldn't be charged with the murder yet at the time. So, but dismembering a corpse alone wasn't good enough to hold them.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and that has to be terribly frustrating.
The police are out there trying to do the right thing, do work. And you feel like you're taking 4 bad people off the street, but they're right back out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration with that. I mean, like these guys said, these laws that everybody went running up to Albany after those sensationalized police events that happened in the last couple of years. And without thinking, they knee-jerked it, and they didn't modify things, and maybe some things should have been modified. They went right after us, and they handcuff law enforcement to a degree. But the men and women go out there every day, and they still do what they do because this is what they signed up for. I can say for Nassau County, it starts with good leadership. We have Bruce Blakeman, who is 100% law enforcement, pro-law enforcement.
Yes.
He's supporting the mission of the president. We have one of the best commissioners that Nassau County Police has ever seen, Pat Ryder, who is front and center, not only from a management standpoint. He was out there, boots on the ground during all the protests. He was out there coordinating stuff. That shows good leadership, and that shows the men and women out there, gives them the confidence that when things happen and there is some conflict or some things that are in the gray, that maybe the media will sensationalize and paint a different picture. They're both out there supporting us, and that says a lot. And we need that. They have that in Suffolk County, and we're hoping that other jurisdictions, and hopefully at some point, like you said, the pendulum will switch, and we'll get some support. Everyone's not going to like us, but we're not going away. We're going to do the job. We owe it to the residents of every county, wherever we live, to do the right thing. We partner these things through community policing and other initiatives, and that's what we need to do. And communication is the biggest thing here.
I want to just go around. I want you to make your point. I want to go around because we're wrapping up. And frankly, it's important what you guys have to say, not me necessarily. So whatever is on your mind on this important day of backing the blue, it's one of the best events I get to do year throughout the entire year. So you were about to make a point, and I just want to go, whoever wants to go first, closing thoughts as we wrap this up.
I just want to say I think there's a positive aspect for the future. What I see is patriotism's coming back. It's becoming in fashion again.
Does everybody agree with that? Because I think that's true. The patriotism is coming back.
I think it's going to be
Folks, do you agree with that? The patriotism is coming back? Not fast enough. Agreed.
But I think it's a big factor, and it's going to help.
Plus, with recruitment in the future, I think common sense is coming back into government now. So I think that's going to come down from the federal level down, and it's going to come out into the states and hopefully maybe down to the city council and other areas where it'll come back to a standard where people will now want to get involved again, and they'll want to be part of the police agencies and to give back to those communities, because that's a big thing. When they talk about quality of life, my thought is that the police officer is an embodiment of quality of life. When he's out there in the street, he is part of the quality of life. He's there ensuring your safety. He's there helping that community.
So closing thoughts, gentlemen, on this very important day. Whatever it is that happens to be on your mind. And Mr. President, you have a lot in terms of on your plate representing your members. And, at any point you can get a phone call and you've got to defend one of your officers against nonsense when we're the ones, the public, that call the police, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to admit that when you're in trouble, what do you do? 911, boop, boop, boop. What's your emergency?
Right.
And the police come to help you. And sometimes they don't leave and get to go home. Sometimes they take a bullet on the job. So, Mr. President, parting thoughts on this day backing the blue.
Yes, I will offer a silver lining. So just a few weeks ago, we had one of our officers, Brendan Gallagher, a highway officer, that was almost killed in the line of duty. We had a street racer, drug driver going over 100 miles per hour that intentionally hit the officer's car, almost killed him, 3 weeks on a ventilator. Was day by day. And when I tell you the tremendous amount of support that we got and that Officer Gallagher got from the public, it was just overwhelming. We had classrooms full of first graders sending pictures. We had people donating to the fundraiser. We had people sending food to the hospital. So when I tell you, don't believe the lie that you hear in the media. Believe what you hear here on WABC. You really do represent the public sentiment when it comes to police. The grift, the BLM grift, even during that, I think that was a distortion, because when you were out there talking to the public, the rank and file, by and large, had the support of the people, certainly in Suffolk County. So a great thank you to the people that live in Suffolk County for their support of the men and women in blue. And thank you here at WABC, everyone, for what you do for us.
Yes, I just want to thank you guys also for having us on here, Dominic. Everybody on the show here. It's been a great experience. Again, final thoughts: don't read into things until you actually know the facts. The media is going to sell these stories, and get to know what's going on before you make a rational decision. I think we're too quick because of social media and so much rhetoric out there that we're quick to make a decision. So I would say trust your own judgment, do the right thing, partner with the police. We have a great partnership with Suffolk County and the NYPD, and get to know your cops.
What's interesting, guys, I've been out there a long time, almost a 40-year career, and I've watched community activists start out as leaders of the community, and now they're multimillionaires. So I'm just saying. So go right ahead.
I just want to say I want to thank you for the really sincere comments that you made at the top of the segment. And I want to say for your listening audience, if you like what you heard now, plug in for Cop Talk, the great WABC radio.
Fantastic.
So check that out. Podcast, WABC, Cop Talk.
Yeah, I just want to say one more time again, it's great to have places like WABC talking about the positive things that law enforcement does on a day-to-day basis again. We got to switch it back to that common sense where the cops are the good guys. We're out there trying to protect everybody. We need that to become the narrative again, and not all the stuff we've been hearing about the last 20 years that is really just 0.01% of what goes on in this country. We have 1.5 million law enforcement officers in this country that are out there doing the right thing every day.
And that those distractions that you hear, they're garbage. It really is that simple. When you look at the amount of law enforcement in the country, every single day, the men and women of blue saving lives, every single day, unsung heroes. So on behalf of Goya, on behalf of the Suffolk County PBA, and of course on behalf of the people, the two people here that they issued us a mandate, the Catsimatidis family, John Catsimatidis, Margot Catsimatidis. What you folks probably don't know, and I don't think Mrs. Catsimatidis is in the room right now, she takes this so personal in terms of backing the blue. She was here Kevin can vouch for me, she was here all day yesterday, making sure that this was herself, that this was set up perfectly for the men and women of blue. And so on behalf of John Catsimatidis, that has made this possible at WABC, Margot Catsimatidis, and they have told us in terms of covering law enforcement, we don't have to take a position one way or the other, just tell the truth. And when you tell the truth, you must side with law enforcement because the truth is on your side. So please give these wonderful leaders a round of applause, folks, and yourselves a round of applause. And thank you very much for attending today. Always remember, always, always, always back the blue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.